Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Ever After. I am delighted to have you here today for the fourth edition of my relationship skills seminar, webinar, whatever this is. Today, I want to talk about showing appreciation, how to give and receive love, because I keep seeing so many people lately who feel they are not receiving the right messages from their partner. And even though you are single or you are in a relationship, it's always important to know how to make your partner feel loved. So for those of you who are watching with your partners, it's a great opportunity for you to have a conversation in the background as I am presenting all these different things. And you can say hello to everyone in the chat if you want to meet everybody else. There's going to be potential for you to talk to each other and to have some conversations in a minute. So I'm going to go straight into it. If you do have questions, I encourage you to put them in the chat. And at the end, obviously, there will be a Q&A, and we're going to have an interactive section so that we can all make sure that we receive the best information from today's training. So let's go straight into the topic from today. As I mentioned, one of my favorite things to coach my clients on is how to show appreciation, because love is nothing without actually being received in the right way. So the first thing that I would like you guys to consider is the importance of communication in your ability to create connection with everybody else. I think several people who are online are already in multicultural relationships. So pretty much everyone who lives in Hong Kong is exposed to multiple type of cultures and different ways of connecting with each other. Sorry, I'm going a little bit too fast here. I don't want to jump straight. So I'd like you to consider, if you've ever been in a situation to meet someone that you were attracted to feel this chemistry with them, but to actually have no ability to communicate your feelings to them, to not know the right words. Sure, you can let your body do the talking, you can have this deep connection at a mental level, but ultimately, in order to make a relationship last for a long time, you need to be able to find a way to communicate with each other. Language not only creates an image of the world for us in our own mind, but it also creates a bridge between us and the people around us, to allow us to see each other, to feel each other, to know each other. In my experience as a relationship coach, I noticed that what people want most from a partner, they actually phrase it as, I want someone to get me, someone to see me for who I truly am. And I feel that we use language to share that information with someone. But today we're not going to necessarily talk about the words that we use to express our affection and appreciation for our partner, but to understand what is the deeper meaning of having a love language and communicating appreciation. Now, when we grow up, we are told that we are supposed to look for the perfect love. You know, my company is called Happy Ever After, as you can see here in the back, because everybody has this idea that relationships are perfect, or they have to be perfect in order to last a lifetime. The reality is, though, that we learn about relationships from Disney movies, where it's all hyperbolized, where it's all simplified to the point of believing that everything is magic. And what I encourage my single clients to think of, for example, is the fact that, you know, your wedding day, the big goal for many single people, is just the beginning of your problems. Because if we don't know how to love, if you don't know how to show that affection to other people, being in a marriage in which the feelings are not being communicated is one of the worst things that we can possibly experience in life. So what I encourage everybody that works with me is to really stop looking for this perfect relationship, for the Disneyfied version of love, for the magical happy ever after, and to spend some time learning relationship skills, which is kind of the motivation of why I do these trainings all the time. So we seem to have this idea in our head that we should know this, that somehow relationships should come naturally. But how many people do you know that get this right the first time. Many people are divorced. Many people have been in different relationships. Many people are now in relationships that hurt, that don't feel as good as they did in the beginning. So for those people who are wondering what went wrong, I would like to offer this, the webinar today, to actually explain maybe part of the reason why relationships are not perfect. And you might actually recognize some of the biggest enemies that you experience. We know that love starts with lust and attraction, that chemistry is high. And if we were to take our ideas of love from Disney movies, that would be it. We should just be in love forever. And, we should just want our partner to be in our life for the rest of our life. But the reality is that after a while, after the chemistry goes down, there's a few things that are happening in a relationship that gradually become bigger problems. So maybe the first time you say to your partner, "Not today, honey, I've got a headache," it doesn't feel so bad. But when this becomes a everyday situation, your partner is going to start thinking that there's something wrong with them. So very often when we are rejected all the time, we start thinking, well, I'm not good enough. This person, I don't understand why they married me. I'm absolutely not able to make them happy. So I'm not even going to try to get close to them. I'm not even going to be go close enough to tell them how I feel, because I know they're just going to just push me away. And no matter what I do to show them that I love them, it's not going to work. So the second part that contributes to this lack of connection, a lack of intimacy, the lack of feeling loved, is when we actually dismiss our partner, when we ignore them, when we neglect their presence, when we are in the same room, but actually our mind and spirit is elsewhere. When you tell someone that you like them, that you want to be part of their life, and they just ignore you because they have better things to do, the second time you're not going to do it again. So being ignored makes people believe that they're worthless, that they don't matter, that they're not a priority, that you never loved them. So they feel unlovable. They start believing that no matter what they do, it's never going to work. And again, that they are not good enough and there's a problem with themselves. They're not even knowing to look at the overall dynamic of a relationship that you are supposed to create together. Neglecting your partner is beyond being ignored, is not being seen. And like I said in the beginning, we all want to be seen, heard, feel like we matter. And neglecting your partner is when you simply don't ask them any questions, when their presence or their absence is completely irrelevant to you. And when someone feels neglected, it is one of the worst feelings they can possibly have. Because in relationships, the reason we want a relationship is we want to have someone there with us, to have our back, to know that we feel safe and we feel connected. And if someone ignores us and neglects us the whole time, that feeling of safety, the safety net of being loved, is not there. When these behaviors accumulate and when we don't notice how every single day a little bit, it gets a bit worse, it gets a little bit harder to be ignored, to be not seen, to be neglected, it leads to one of the biggest enemies of intimacy and connection, which is contempt. I'm sure you all can recognize this face if you've been in a relationship that has gone that far. And it is the point when you know that you either do something to save your relationship or you're better off just leaving, because it is very, very hard to go back from this phase. If someone starts to look at you this way, they don't respect you, they have lost every shred of affection that they had for you. So it is one of the biggest dangers of ignoring the partnership that you have created. So you know that when someone criticizes you in front of others, when someone is harsh, when they make fun of you in public, they literally can't stand you anymore, and it's really difficult to come back from that. And of course, being on the receiving end of this look is one of the most damaging and soul destroying things you can possibly imagine. And I'm sure all of you know this already. And the worst part of it is that every partner who is in this kind of situation believes that they've tried everything. They've said what they wanted to the other person to hear. They have given all the signals that they knew how. They've communicated their needs in their own way. And when this message doesn't come across because it's being sent in a language that is not being understood by the other person, it just becomes one day something snaps. Then when that happens, the entire foundation of your relationship is destroyed, and you fall into a pit of despair, and you just think, you know what, I'm done. I'm checked out. There's nothing for me to fight in this relationship. And sometimes people walk away, or sometimes they choose to stay and be miserable for the rest of their lives. So the funny thing is, but it's not funny, it's actually quite sad, is that sometimes couples let things go so bad and allow everything to become completely disconnected, that only when they hit rock bottom they start thinking about trying to fix the relationship. They realize that they cannot continue to push things under the carpet, and they actually need to take some action. And being a coach, it always makes me a little bit sad that people do not understand that working with the coach or getting help while your relationship is still in good shape is the best way to prevent you having to reach out to a marriage counselor as a last ditch attempt to save your relationship, or God forbid, a divorce lawyer. Because working with a relationship coach is literally like getting a personal trainer at the gym, someone who can help you keep your body in shape so that you don't get injured next time you run a mile. And this is what happens with relationships. People essentially don't exercise, they don't practice their skills, they don't work on the relationship continuously, diligently, and consistently. And then suddenly these big events are happening, and the trauma is the most heartbreaking event in their life. But as always, having this experience leads you to an opportunity to discover how much you need each other, and how much is good to have communication in your relationship. The vast majority of people that come to talk to me tell me we need to communicate better. There's many layers underneath this desire to communicate better. But today, this talk, this webinar is actually about better communication. And for me, the key to the secret, the real secret to long-lasting relationships, to happy ever after, is really understanding how to show how much you appreciate your partner. When you love someone, part of that love, a huge part of that love, is how much you like them, how much you appreciate all the little things she or he does. But if you don't show them, if you don't actually communicate that to your partner, no matter how deep your love is, if it's hidden, if only you know how it feels to love that person and they never receive that from you, well, they're not actually going to reciprocate, because they're going to feel rejected. They're going to feel ignored. They're going to feel that nothing matters and they're not good enough and they're worthless. And they experience this very deep sense of identity, which comes from not feeling that someone is there for you. And I love this statement on the screen right now, that a person who feels appreciated will always do more than expected, is because we often feel, when our partners don't tell us what's going on for them, that our actions don't matter, that everything that we do to please everybody that we love is going completely unseen and ignored. And that's when desperation and disconnection happen. All right, so the thing that I wanted to offer as a solution to this, the vast majority of couples I work with, when I ask them, when has it started? When have they lost it? When have they lost this connection? 99% of people that I know, and then I ask this question to, tell me that the cataclysmic moment that destroyed their relationship as lovers has been the arrival of children. And the reason why that happens, the reason why children are indeed a catastrophe for a relationship, are because they destroy your love bubble. A love bubble is that space, that dynamic that you create with a partner, in which each other understands and feels there is love, there is connection, there is give and take, there is balance and respect and trust and honesty. And that love bubble is created naturally in the beginning of a relationship through connection, through communication, through chemistry. But all of these things tend to disappear if we don't work at them. And to work at them, we really need to keep doing all the things that we love doing in the beginning of a relationship. You know, when we're first in love with someone, we tell them I love you all the time. We tell them you're beautiful. We tell them I really love how you make me think about things I've never considered in my life. Whatever it is, in the beginning we're very good at showing our appreciation, but then we start taking each other for granted. And taking each other for granted, rejection, contempt, all of those things that I mentioned are the biggest destroyers of the love bubble. When kids come on board, they are a bit like an alien invasion. You know, their presence acts like a tractor beam that sucks away all of this connection, all of this ability to really communicate with your mind, with your partner. And it is very, very important for you to continue to maintain this love bubble alive. The way I put it to my clients is that everybody that I know who has become a parent, or a couple have become parents, they have actually forgotten how to be lovers. So in today's webinar, I really want to talk about how to build and how to sustain this love bubble for your entire life. And it's actually not really that difficult if you know what you're doing. So now I'd like you to consider a little bit of a homework. If you are watching with your partner, this is something that you can discuss with each other. If you are alone and you might want to bring this to your partner later, I would like you, if you have a pen and paper, to start thinking about 3 things that you really appreciate about your partner. These things can be anything. They can be the fact that they give you a foot rub in the evening when you're tired and you've been wearing high heels all day long, or that they make sure to always give you a kiss before going to sleep and telling you they love you every night, or that they're a wonderful father or a parent, or whatever it is that is making you happy. Also, feel free, if you want to write your the things that you appreciate about your partner in the chat so that everyone can see. And if your partner is with you, as we have a few couples that I can see have joined us today, they can actually write this if they want to make their appreciation public. The second part, once you've actually considered what is it that you like about your partner, I'd like you to think about 3 things that you believe your partner appreciates about you. This is a really powerful exercise that I do with my clients when they are in session, usually when we start coaching together, because I like to start every relationship by showing people that there's always things that they are forgetting to communicate to each other. But that there's also a little misalignment in what I think my partner likes about me may not be anywhere near the 3 things that they value the most. So this is a fun exercise to do with your partner, to write your own version, 3 things you like about them and 3 things you believe they like about you, and then swap and see how close you are. This is a really good indication of how much you communicate, how well you know each other, and how well you actually speak each other's love language. You will also notice in the way that you are formulating this appreciation and the way it is received by your partner, whether they are understanding your love language or not. So as you're doing this, I can see that there is, a fair number of people online. So for those of you who are later arrivals to the webinar, don't worry, the link will be posted on my Facebook group and on YouTube. So you haven't actually missed much because this is just the introduction. We have just come to the part where we're talking exactly about the 5 love languages and helping you understand how you like to receive, but also to give love. I'd like you to remember either the beginning of this relationship that you're in or one relationship that you treasure in your life. Think about what attracted you to that partner, to this partner, or if it is a previous partner, it's important for you to go back into your memory banks and remember, what was it really about them that made you think, wow, this person is the right one for me? Was it partially, it would be their looks, because that's what attraction is built on, but what were those character traits, the personality aspects that attracted you? Was it because they were quiet, or because they were very energetic? Was it because they were sporty and full of um, full of excitement for the world? Was it their passion for, I don't know, the environment? I'd like you to write those things down and remember how you were communicating those things that you liked about them in the beginning. How did they know what you liked about them? Sometimes in the beginning, I find when you're dating someone, you do have these conversations. You say, you know, the things that I like about you most are how you tell me all these stories about your childhood, and you share things, failures and mistakes that you made. It really makes me feel closer to you, and it makes me feel that you trust me to share these kind of vulnerable things. As you're making those notes to yourself, and remember what mattered to you in that those early moments of your relationship, think it's at what point during your relationship you stopped saying that to your partner, and notice if you can actually connect the dots and see that the moment you stopped showing that appreciation, it had also started to decrease the level of connection that you had. You actually started to lose some of the intimacy, because when we move into the taking each other for granted phase of a relationship, or the power struggle phase of a relationship, which comes later, things are not going to be so explicitly shown. And because we don't talk about the appreciation that we have for our partner, we forget that we actually appreciate them. So let's move on, and I'll introduce this idea. Gary Chapman is a family therapist. He wrote this book, The 5 Love Languages, as a result of his working with multiple couples during the years. And he's noticed that the vast majority of couples that came to him with relationship problems were literally not speaking the same language. One person was saying, oh, but I do all these things for my husband and he never appreciates it. I never feel appreciated because I cook him nice meals, I iron his shirts, you know, I make sure that he has everything he needs so that he can go to work and be successful. The husband would say, well, you know, this is the job of a wife. That is part of the role that you've taken as the carer and the nurturer in this relationship. So yeah, I'm taking that for granted because these are my expectations of what a wife does. So I don't feel that is your way of showing me love. Whereas on her side, she would want to be shown that, yeah, I love that you're cooking me all these special meals, and I love that you're such a wonderful mother to our children. So he came up with these descriptions for the 5 love languages, and I'm going to actually go into the details of every single one today. And I'm going to show you how to actually identify what is your love language, and also to know how to deal with a partner who has this love language. The easiest way to do it is actually to go online to a website called the 5lovelanguages.com, where you can take an actual quiz, a test that would identify exactly what your love language is. I highly encourage you to do it with your partner, because it all explains the results of the test, explains very clearly why you may have had communication issues. Or if you are new in this relationship, it will give you a wonderful foundation for how to adjust your behavior to make sure that your partner constantly knows how connected and how in love you are with them. The other thing that you need to remember is that in most cases we have at least a couple. So the scores, as you do this quiz, you will see that the scores will give you your top 2, which means that it's not just one. Sometimes it's a combination. Of course, everyone likes to have gifts. So the 5 languages are physical touch, acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, and receiving gifts. So now, if you're ready, let's start looking specifically into each and every one of these things and notice what is the difference. And if some of you have already done the test and you know your love language, just check how many of the things that I'm going to share in a moment will actually be true for you. So we're going to start with physical touch. There is, of course, a certain level of physical touch that everybody needs in the world, right? We are connecting with other people through our physical sorry, I'm jumping a little bit too fast. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the general idea of physical touch. Sometimes people assume that physical touch is about sex. So they make the assumption that if you say physical touch is your primary language, every time you touch your partner, you're actually pushing them to have sex. The reality of this is that physical touch is much more about feeling safe and knowing that someone has your back. It's that sense of security, that you are not alone in the world, that someone chooses you and they show it to you. They literally stand by you and you feel their presence through touch, through connection, through little brushes of attention that they give you. So how do you know if you are a physical touch person? Well, there's a couple of clues that you can consider about yourself. People who love physical touch are very comfortable with public display of attention. They're the people who would hold hands in public all the time, who would be kissing their partner in front of their friends. I know that when someone who is high in, a fan of the physical touch love language feels very alone if you haven't touched them for a while. And you will know that some people really push you away. So if you are a physical touch person, you will constantly try to hug your partner, to kiss your partner. And if they don't reciprocate, you will feel alone. You will feel abandoned. You like getting massages. You like the idea that people will touch you. It's something that connects you with them. Even if it's a stranger, you still enjoy it. Whereas people who don't like physical touch are probably never going to go to a massage parlor with you. So maybe not one of the activities to spend quality time together. People who enjoy touch is obviously the ones who hug everybody all the time. If you say goodbye to someone who is a fan of physical touch, they'll probably hug you 3 times before you leave. And of course, kissing, holding hands, cuddling every day before you go to sleep or even before you wake up are very, very primal needs for you. As you are taking the quiz, if you're going to go to the website that I mentioned, you will notice that the questions that are confirming that this is your primary love language will be all about the way you're connecting to a partner through your body. Now, what if your partner is more of a physical touch kind of person and you are not so good at this? What are some of the things that you can do? So this is really practical. I've tried to make it really basic so that you have a few things that you can introduce or reintroduce back in your relationship to show your partner that you love them. So people who are holding hands all the time probably have this powerful connection. People who sleep entangled, cuddling each other, or who give each other hugs all the time and kisses. I don't know if you know that there is this hormone in the human body called oxytocin, which is called the bonding hormone. And a hug and any physical connection with another human being stimulates oxytocin in our body. And oxytocin is responsible for creating connection and intimacy, but also for making us feel safe, alleviating stress, bringing up also production of dopamine, which is the pleasure hormone. So it is incredible how much value and how much happiness there is in a simple hug, in a simple pressing your bodies together. If your partner loves touch, obviously they will ask you for a back massage, for foot massage. They will ask you to hold their hand. They will ask you to play their hair. For physical touch, people playing in their hair is one of the most fantastic experiences. Obviously watching TV, touching together all the time, putting your legs over your husband's knees while you're watching TV together is very powerful. Even sleeping with your feet or hands touching is one of the most powerful way of feeling that connection at all times. And like sometimes sitting on the sofa and holding hands and looking into each other's eyes can be a very powerful way of showing your partner that you love them. And of course, dance is such a powerful way of connecting. If you've ever done Latin dancing, for example, you know that one of the most important aspects of creating that partnership is the connection, the physical touch between the two partners so that they can read each other's body language. So these are some really easy tips for you to know how to communicate with a physical touch partner. Keep watching, because obviously sometimes there's more than one uh, um, language that is necessary for you to communicate that. And the second one is obviously, we talk about body language and we talk about verbal language, verbal cues, non-verbal cues. Physical touch is about non-verbal cues. Words of affirmation is the opposite of that. Obviously everybody who is capable of communicating through language likes to be told they're doing the right thing. Everybody enjoys to know that somebody else likes them, that they're good, that they're pretty, that they're exciting or passionate, whatever it is. So we all have this need to be told we are good enough. But for people who really like words of affirmation, it's a little bit deeper than that. So how do you know if this is your love language? Well, you thrive on compliments. It's something that makes you so happy. The more unexpected, the more public, the more they are done, they're coming out of the left field, the better it is. You're going to feel more excited that someone recognizes you through giving you a compliment. Um, of course, it is important for you to feel that, to hear that people like you in their life. People reasserting that it's important, that they love seeing you, that they love spending time with you, that you are such a wonderful person. For people who love words of affirmation and who need words of affirmation, is very, very important that they keep hearing it. Now, I know a lot of couples where one of the partners is high on words of affirmation and the other partner is like not at all, not a very good communicator. And I hear this phrase sometimes, like, well, I told you I loved you when we got married, I'll tell you if that changes. But for someone who is high on this language, that isn't good enough. That's going to make this person feel extremely unhappy. So for words of affirmation people, it is important that you feel understood, that people tell you, I get you, I hear you, I understand what you mean, you are wonderful. It really helps to know, to receive verbal feedback from the people around you that you are doing a good job and that you're accepted. So these words are very important to you. Now, how do you show show your love through words of affirmation to a partner? Well, there are many different ways, which I'm sure you can think of. But first of all, what a partner wants to hear is that you support them, that you are there for them, that they're doing the good job. So that's why things like, well done, I'm proud of you, you're doing an amazing job, wow, you are the best mother, I really love how you keep our family together, or whatever, keep doing it, is such a beautiful thing to watch you in your element. These are wonderful words for people who love the encouragement. If you're not so good with speaking, it's also really important that you surprise your partner with love notes. You can have a little post-it note hidden in different parts of the house. You can put little love notes in your partner's pocket so that they find them later and are surprised that you've thought about it, that you thought ahead and you planned this little moment of connection and giving them love and appreciation. Of course, these days we text a lot, but in order for someone to feel appreciated, they don't just have to get a laundry list of all the things that you've thought about, but more thoughtful messages, ways in which you show the partner that you're not just kind of giving them tasks to do, but most important is that they actually get, oops, I moved a little bit too fast, sorry about that. Is because I'm reading all your chats, so I get a little bit distracted, but I'm glad to see all the connection on the online. So, come up with creative ways of communicating with your partner through cute little things. Maybe send them a postcard if you go away on business. I mean, it is very old fashioned, but it's also quite cute to receive things. Writing letters to each other, especially when you find it hard to communicate verbally, can be a really powerful way of sharing things that are difficult for you to come out with. Or even use music. I love it when, sometimes when you hear music and you are in a certain emotional state, that song really kind of seems to have been written for you. I love doing little playlists for the people I want to share my appreciation to. And if I hear a song that kind of seems to express exactly how I'm feeling about them, I love sharing that, because it's a very beautiful way of using art to communicate the words that maybe I cannot say very, very well. Of course, it is important for your partner to know that you love and appreciate them and that they make you feel good. So being vocal in bed is really powerful. First of all, it creates deeper intimacy. It is a very explicit signal to your partner that they're doing the right thing. So many times I hear clients in the sex coaching part of my business saying, oh, the thing is, I don't even know if she's enjoying it. I don't really know what he thinks about me doing it that way. So having a clarity in that respect, through the feedback that you are receiving, vocal feedback, how else is your partner going to know that they're doing the right thing? Telling your partner, yes, right there, that's exactly how I like to be touched, demonstrating that, and telling your partner when they're doing a good job is really, really important, because especially when it comes to sex, we're very worried that we're doing the wrong thing. But words of affirmation is a very powerful way to create sexual connection as well. And of course, pay them compliments, show your admiration. Like most of us, even though we don't necessarily feel that high level of lust as we felt in the first 2 weeks of the relationship after 10 years, we still admire our partner. There are many things that we love about them, the way they smile, the way their forehead crinkles when they laugh, something like cute little things. Just give them compliments about it. And the more straightforward and the more public, the better. Knowing that you are receiving affirmation in public is an extra layer of power when it comes to using words of affirmation. The third language is receiving gifts. For some people, I think for all of us, we are educated from childhood that gifts are a way of showing love. What do we give people on birthdays? We give them a gift because we want them to know that we love them. Christmas, Easter, all of these things, all of the events where we believe, we want to show our love in a certain way, it has kind of been, programmed in our mind that if you want to tell someone you love them, you're actually going to give them a gift. But not everyone receives gifts in the same way. And for some people, it's actually completely irrelevant. I know that for me personally, receiving gifts is kind of the last thing on my list. Sure, I like it as much as everyone else, but it doesn't really matter to me. I'm much more in other spaces. But for some people, it's really important. So the gifts love language, it will be yours if you love shopping, if you think that it's a pleasurable experience, that you always get excited about Christmas. If you're one of those people who's already bought all the Christmas presents probably in September already, if you can't go to someone's house without buying them something, if you're making gifts to your friends just because you see something and that makes you think of them, that also means that of course you're enjoying receiving gifts yourself. Some people are really, really attached to the gifts they receive. So, they have boxes of things that they've never actually used. It wasn't really gifts that they valued so much through the value of the object, but the fact that it came as a token of appreciation from someone they loved gives that particular object a huge value. You are very good and you love picking gifts for all your friends. And also there are people who, wherever they go, even if they go to Macau, they're going to buy you some sort of sweet or souvenir or something. Not me. I hate souvenirs. Don't buy me any. So how to show love to your partner when they really enjoy gifts. There's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. You really need to understand that gift giving is actually an art, and buying your wife some random bracelet that the woman in the duty-free shop told you is very popular today is probably not going to go down very well in this respect. But it's more important for people who value gifts, it's more important for them to know that you've thought about it, that there's a thought behind the gift that matters, that there's a connection that shows them that you have spent time deciding what would make them happy. That's why, like I said, gifts bought in the last minute, from the plane because you forgot to buy your wife a birthday present, will always fall a little bit off the mark. um, it is very, very important for you to not miss any occasions. So don't miss birthdays, don't miss anniversaries, don't, obviously Christmas. Make sure that the gifts that you're buying take into account the surprise element, right? If I tell you what to buy me, it's not really such a surprise anymore. But at the same time, it shows me that you know me enough to know that what I'm looking for is the experience rather than the object in itself. So give small gifts often. Sometimes people think, oh my God, my wife is so demanding. I keep buying her all these diamond jewelry and I'm still not making her happy enough. Maybe if you buy her lots of diamond jewelry and she never wears it, that's an indication that actually she doesn't enjoy receiving gifts. So don't waste your time. Pay attention to the way a person receives a gift and their reaction to it, because then you're going to know if this is a true thing for them or not. So for people who love gifts, is actually, like I said, more important that it's a memorable, there's an association with something that shows them that you love them, that you know them, that you see deeply into their soul. If you travel, bring them something they really will appreciate, even if it's a little silly thing from the airport that can actually teach them that, or tell them that you've been thinking of them, that they're constantly on your mind. For people who value gifts, the meaning of the gift, I repeat this for the third time, but it's the most powerful aspect of this is, if I know that you thought about it. I had a case once with a client, with a couple that I was working with, and I asked them how do they show each other appreciation, and he said, the male partner said, oh yeah, I know she likes gifts, and that's why last time I was on holiday somewhere, blah blah blah, wherever, I bought her this coconut soap because I know she likes coconut. And I asked her, how did you receive that? How did that work for you? She was like, it was soap. It wasn't really, yeah, I told him once that I like coconut water, but I didn't like soap so much. So be careful with the meaning that a person would make of that, and think about what they're associating it with. You see, I'm wearing all these rose rings, and very often I receive gifts that are rose rose water, rose perfume. The thing is, I don't actually like roses as such, or I don't like the rose scent. This rose is a symbol for something completely different, but I've received gifts with a lot of roses just because people make the assumption that means something to me. Of course, birthdays, right? Really important. And yes, David, I don't really need to explain why, for someone who values gifts, it's really important that they receive a gift on their birthday that is not something practical, that is not something that you can use, but it needs to be a surprise and it needs to be thoughtful. And sometimes, people who love gifts, it can be like a muffin from the coffee shop that you bring as a surprise. It can be, I don't know, like a cute post-it deck or something. As long as it's something that shows them that you thought about them, that is really the point of gift giving. Right. Excuse me. Moving into acts of service. Now, a lot of people mistake acts of service for being, oh, you just do stuff for me. I'm just going to be the princess who expects you to take care of everything in my life. But actually, acts of service is the desire to feel like you are a team with your partner. Like, you do things for me, I do things for you. I show my appreciation and care to you through doing things for you to alleviate a burden, to make your life easier, to simplify your life. And yes, I do expect the same thing in return, because knowing that I can rely on my partner to share the good times and the bad times is a really important part of the partnership. So it is your love language if it is important for you that your partner does as he says. So reliability, knowing that you can trust your partner. If you ask your partner to pick up the kids from school and they forget to do it, then obviously that is not particularly great for either your partnership or the kids, for that matter, who've been neglected and forgotten. But it's kind of goes hand in hand with trust and with knowing what's important to your partner. What do they value? So acts of service is actually one of my love languages, and I know that I actually don't like to ask people for help. I'm a very independent person and I like to do my own stuff. So actually when someone notices that there's something that they could be doing for me and they do it without asking me, without kind of begging for my permission or something, is something that I value a lot. You are someone like myself who appreciates when others do things for me, say thank you a lot. It's really, even though it wasn't like a major thing, you are making sure that you are showing that appreciation. It's really important for people who love acts of service. Like I said, you depend on yourself above others, but you also value what a partner can offer you, because that is the whole point of being in a relationship for someone who values acts of service. And it's a measure of love. And you do expect them to show their care by taking care of little things. So acts of service doesn't have to be major things all the time. And I'm going to talk about it more here in how to express your appreciation in this particular space. So the most important thing with acts of service is really, I don't know if you see this the same way I do, but I've moved that particular thing. So the most important thing with acts of service, people, is not to say that you do something, but actually do it. So for acts of service people, action obviously speaks way louder than any words. I don't care how many times you tell me that you're going to do something, or I don't care if you're telling me that it's on your list. It doesn't mean anything. If it's not done, it's not done. And I'm going to be upset that I don't see that happening. If you're taking on a task and if you do something, do it 100%. Don't do it like while you're doing something else. Be present. Being present is one of the things that comes a little bit later, but it's really important. Remember that actually it doesn't mean that you have to do major things. Like I said, they're like small things, like saying, oh honey, I know that you're busy with whatever, this presentation, or you're working late with your clients today. I'll cook dinner tonight, or I'll go shopping, or I'll pick up your dress from the tailor, or I'll deliver something that you needed to take to your mother. Whatever it is, little things that actually give me time to do other things are very, very valuable. Follow through, right? If you tell me you do something, don't stop halfway because you get distracted by a friend asking you to go and watch the footy together. You can do that later, but make sure that you deliver first. Make sure that when your partner appreciates acts of service, you actually ask them what it is that they value most, because it's very easy to be lost in, okay, what should I do that makes you happy? Because sometimes I do things and you don't appreciate them, and other stuff I don't do because I think it doesn't matter to you, but then you'll bite my head off later that I didn't do that for you. So in the course of your partnership, learn to ask questions and to remember what a partner appreciates, so that you don't waste your time on things that are not meaningful to them. And spontaneity. Do stuff just because you feel it in the moment. If you plan too much, if you create expectations, it's not going to work so well. Don't go overboard. Don't do everything. Obviously, some people think that showing love means taking care of everything. The problem with that is it can lead to the partner who does everything feeling like they're not appreciated because they're taking on too much. And of course, make sure that you do things that you feel like you can perform. Do these things because they really matter to you, because they matter to them. So not because it's an expectation or a demand. That can actually imbalance the giving, the act of doing something for your partner. The next one is quality time. For a lot of people, it is very important to spend time, to know that you're prioritizing them. And quality time doesn't mean that you're sitting on the sofa and watching Netflix together, because you're actually not being with each other. You're watching something completely different. So you're spending quality time with your Netflix account, not with the partner that you're with. So you are valuing quality time if you actually give your time to people, if you listen to them and make sure that you focus and you are present on what someone is telling you in that moment. You're not on your phone, you're not thinking of work, you're not actually, I don't know, playing with your locks while you're talking to them, whatever it is. You are able to focus on someone else for a long period of time and to be fully present in the body for them. That is so important for people who value your time. You actually like doing things with others, and it's important that you're not just sitting looking at each other, but you do things, that there's an activity, that there's something that connects you. um, you are the sort of person who makes time for loved ones. You know that actually time is the most expensive commodity in the world, because any second that you waste, you will never ever get back. So you also know that life is short, and that matters to you, and you want to take advantage of every moment to be with that person. Just before this workshop, I actually gave an interview on a podcast talking about how does social distancing impact connection. Well, actually, now we're noticing how important it is to give people in our life our time. And because we cannot be there in person, and physical touch, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to achieve. Giving your partner attention and quality time is very important. And you do enjoy sharing experience with the partner in your life. Um, so we are also oh, you seem to be valuing all of this. Yes, but there will be a difference between all of them. So you can actually take the test that I'm going to send the link in a little bit. So for quality time, of course, you value them all, but you will value some more than others. Showing love, sorry, if you have a quality time partner, the way you show them that you pay attention to them and you show them your appreciation is by doing things together, by asking them to go for coffee with you in the middle of the afternoon, by running errands together, by buying random tickets to shows, or just inviting them to do different things with you. When you spend time at home, but you're not each sitting in your own room watching TV, different programs, being disconnected, but actually doing things together, offering to help, offering to cook, even reading a book next to each other, it can still be connecting, but it's more interesting if you actually have a conversation about that book, for example. Exercising together, they say that people who work out together stay together, because this is something that is very connecting, because the excitement that you get and the hormonal high that you get through exercising and increasing your blood pressure and your heartbeat actually is similar to the adrenaline that you get in the early phases of chemistry and lust. So actually it strengthens your connection. Of course, people who love quality time love organizing things together, having having webinars together. It's quite cool. So organizing trips, going camping, I don't know, doing stuff together at the weekend, or even in the evening, going for a stroll on the water side in Hong Kong can be a beautiful thing, a beautiful moment of connection. Do think, many couples that I work with who've been together for a long time kind of wake up one day to realize that they have nothing in common. Whether or not they value quality time or not, it is one of the things that is missing most to create connection and partnership. So try to discover new interests, try to explore what else you can do together that can be fun and different, even though you didn't do that before and it didn't mean anything to you when you were younger. If you're now in your 40s, you're going to want to do different things than you were in your 20s, for example. If you are the adventurous type, plan events, parties, vacations, even fantasize about what would be your ideal trip and what sort of things you would want to do together. Can be really fun and very exciting. Of course, I know many people, when I tell them this, go, oh, but it's so boring to schedule a date night. I think it is one of the most powerful ways of ensuring that you reconnect with your partner on a regular basis, because it's so easy to take each other for granted. And people say, oh yeah, well, we tried this whole date night thing once or twice, and then it kind of got washed out and other things took over. Well, actually book it in the diary. Just like you want to have a connection date night and you want to have scheduled sex, which for some people sounds completely incredibly boring, but it's actually the way to create what is called responsive desire, which is the answer to not having sex and not having intimacy. But that's going to be the subject of another relationship skill workshop that I'm going to do next week possibly. It is very important that you schedule these things in your time. Quality time means is time that you can put all your effort in, all your energy in. So having the conversation about when you're going to do this, and then actually learn what you want to find out about each other. Ask them what's going on in their life, not just the random how was work, hoping that they're not going to vent about their boss, but actually with curiosity, with the desire to understand what is happening in your partner's life. The most important thing for people who value quality time is actually presence, being mentally present, being physically present, not scrolling Instagram while you're telling me about your day, because I'm feel if I tell you something important to me, even if it was stuff that kids did during the day, and you're just paying more attention to your phone or you're like posting on Facebook, I'm not going to feel like you're giving me the attention that I deserve. So if you want to spend quality time with your partner, switch off the phone, switch on off the TV, and just look at each other in each other's eyes and talk. A really interesting tool that I mentioned, I think, in the last webinar, and I actually use a lot in my coaching, is this very interesting study that was done a few years ago called 36 Questions to Fall in Love, which of course was used to create connection out of nothing, to create intimacy between strangers. But it's actually a very useful exercise to do with your partner, especially if it's a relatively new partnership, as I know we have a few people online who don't know each other too long. This particular, I'm going to also send the link after the workshop, and this exercise really helps you to get deeper into that vulnerability space that each person has by asking you questions that you maybe never considered asking your partner. So you can go deeper, several levels of magnitude deeper into a person's personal emotional space, asking things that matter to them, things they like about you, how do they feel about the relationship, and so on. It's a really powerful intimacy building exercise, so I highly recommend it for quality time partners. So other than this is basically a final summary chart, which I'm going to very quickly go through, just to show you what's a yes and what's a no, and what are some of the things that we've discussed already. So if your partner loves receiving gifts, it's all about how thoughtful, how meaningful that gift is. It's, like I said, not buying stuff from a catalog because your wife likes jewelry. Is the meaning of that gift that matters the most. And the main meaning is it shows me you're thinking about me. It's not really about how much money you're paying for the particular object you're buying me. So making sure that, of course, you calibrate those gifts so that you don't keep buying the same old stuff that your partner doesn't enjoy. So if you buy your wife jewelry and she never wears it, that's a good indication that maybe jewelry is not the answer. So make sure that you make a list, or you make a note to yourself of how she received a particular gift, whether it was used or it was kept in the cupboard forever, because that will really help you hone into the right type of gifts. Like I said, if you forget birthdays and anniversaries, you know that it's like the biggest thing for someone who loves gifts. And if you buy random stuff that means nothing, it's not going to show them exactly the opposite. It shows them that you never think about them, that you don't pay attention to them, that you're just doing something because you're just trying to create an illusion that you love them. For quality time, people, is really important that you spend actual time together without phones, without any other distractions. Now, if you are in a long distance relationship and you need to use the phone to connect, use the phone as an enabler as opposed to a distractor. So the phone can be a huge enabler to make that connection. So for quality time, it's important that you are creatively coming up with new ways of discovering new interests and creating special moments. And yeah, it's really important for people who value quality time that you definitely enjoy your me time, your whatever it is that you do separately to enjoy yourself, but you also prioritize them and being in their presence and spending time together. For acts of service, people, you really the one thing that is really important for a partner is to know that you are there to help them, that you have their back, that you think about their well-being, and you are there to help a hand, to lend a hand. um, Find little ways of doing that often. It doesn't have to be huge acts of service. You don't have to, pick them up from work every single day, but if it happens to be in your way, why not? It's fun. And then of course make sure that if you say you're going to do something, you absolutely do it, even if you die. Make sure someone else continues the act. Physical touch is really important to show your love through non-verbal cues: touching, kissing, hugging, all that stuff. Of course, it's really important that if your partner is receptive to this, the touch can lead to intimacy. It doesn't have to lead to sex, but people who value touch, they enjoy that connection. They feel that love is expressed to the physical connection. But one of the things that I always say is be very sure that the timing matches, because the vast majority of time when you get rejected for your sexual advances is because you're doing it as the lady is washing the dishes. And that's not a good time, gentlemen. Make sure that you actually check the environment and make sure the timing works. Touching without permission, of course, that is not something you ever want to do, no matter what. And for words of affirmation, partners, encouragement, appreciation, compliments, active listening, ensuring that you are reminding yourself and them how much you love them, and you say those things with words. Whether you write them or you verbally express them, it's up to you, or if it's music, that also works. And also make sure that when you're giving feedback, it doesn't sound like you're criticizing them. The vast majority of people who feel not good enough, it's because they've heard a lot of criticism, even when it wasn't necessarily expressed like criticism. But, especially the word should is something that really can be interpreted as a criticism or a judgment rather than encouragement. So if you say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You should have done something else," actually feels more like, "I think I'm right and you're wrong." Right. So this is the final thing that I had to say. But now I would like to give you space and opportunity to ask questions, to make comments. So if anyone has anything to say, please raise your hand. There is a way in the bottom line where you can actually show that you want to talk, and let me know. So any of you has any questions, any observations, any thoughts as you've been exploring this? I will give you a few minutes. I think you can all unmute yourselves. I don't have to unmute you, but if anyone is interested in participating, then I would absolutely love to hear your ideas. Any questions? Well, if no questions, it means that I did an amazing job at explaining everything perfectly, which I know is not true because there's so many questions about this. But for those of you who maybe missed the beginning, I will post this on my YouTube channel and on Facebook. And if I don't have your phone numbers, because there may be some people that I don't know personally, whoever invited you to this workshop will receive the link to the webinar, to the recording of the webinar, and you can seek it from them. Or if you want to join my Facebook group, you can also do that, and this will be posted in the Facebook group as well. So thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for listening. And if you don't have any questions, all right, there's someone who wants to talk to me. How nice is that? Just thank you. Yes, I will be sending the link. I will be sending the link to the quiz and the link to the video.
And I have a question.
If you have any further question, you can obviously message me personally to find out more. Otherwise, thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful Friday evening and an awesome weekend. And I'll see you, if you're really interested in hearing more about this, next week, next Friday at 6 at the same time, I'm going to do a webinar on desire, the art of creating and sparking desire in your relationship. So it's going to be juicy and sexy and hot. And I'm going to talk about how you can keep that desire and keep the appreciation on a physical level for your entire relationship, so that you can be happily ever after in love with each other. Yeah, who had a question? Someone had a question? No, there was just a comment. There was no question. So
yes,
I will pass all this information and looking forward to seeing you next Friday. And if you're on my Facebook, I do Facebook Lives on Tuesday evenings at 7, but they're more geared towards single people. So it's more about the dictionary of modern dating, explaining how this whole modern dating works, and especially how coronavirus is translating everything into a crazy world of dating. Thank you, everyone. Lots of love from the Queen. Enjoy your weekend, and thank you so much. Oh, a question: what to do if you have all the languages? Well, now you know exactly how to speak all of them. I've given you a lot of ways of doing it, but I promise you there will be a ranking. If you take the quiz online, it will actually show you which ones matter to you the most. And if you actually had all of them, then you wouldn't really have communication issues with your partner. But I bet that you value some more than others. So I think that's where the difference comes. If you know the one that makes them, if you speak 5 languages and your partner only speaks 3 of them or 2 of them, you're going to choose the one that you're both the most proficient in, right? In any other way. So if your best language is common language is English, you're going to use that because it just makes the most sense. Why would you use something that is maybe a lower level of proficiency? Certainly, I wouldn't speak with my partner in my 4th popular language, or the language that I'm least proficient in. So thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing all of these things. And don't forget to share your appreciation. The 3 things that you appreciate about your partner. This is a great exercise to do to create intimacy. So enjoy that and let me know if you have questions. Bye, everyone. Lots of love. Have a great weekend.